Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to go over the prologue to John's Gospel. This passage beautifully lays out the theological history of God's relationship with humanity and the significance of the incarnation within this history. Upon reading it again, the beauty and profundity of this passage really struck me, and it inspired me to make this video. So let's begin by actually jumping in and reading this passage, so that even if you get nothing from my commentary, at the very least you get to hear the Word of God. So, let's begin. This is John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything made that was made. Was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness, to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son, from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me.' For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side. He has made him known." Okay, so with that, well, the other three, let's talk about a little bit about what John's Gospel is and what he's doing here. So while the other three Gospels focus on giving a historical account of Jesus' life, John's Gospel takes a slightly different approach, as we can see from this very introduction. John's focus here is to describe Jesus, or to describe who Jesus is. Not just in the context of history or in the Jewish nation, but in the context of the history of the universe. You can see this from the very first line. Rather than starting with a genealogy or a birth narrative or just jumping right into Jesus' ministry, John starts in the beginning in a manner very reminiscent of the start of Genesis. He starts in the beginning with creation. He starts by describing who exactly Jesus is in this context, explaining that Jesus, or as he refers to him, the Word, was with God and was God, which formulates sort of the Trinitarian relationship between Father and Son. Then he uses that as a starting point to show us the significance of Jesus' incarnation within this wider relationship of God's relationship with the world and with humanity. To me, I think one of the most striking lines comes in verse 14. And this is where John writes, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us." This verse, in the context of this theological history, starting with the very beginning, with Jesus as the Word and the Word being God and being with God, this verse in verse 14 specifically describes the incarnation as a climactic moment in this history of God's relationship with humanity. And I find the usage of the word flesh, saying the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, particularly striking. This word flesh is used frequently by Paul all throughout the epistles, for example in like Romans 8:3, to describe our corrupted human nature and our tendency towards sin, which he contrasts with the Spirit. Note that the flesh, condemning the flesh, is not a condemnation of the body, but it's a condemnation of the body's fallen state. And conflating the flesh with the physical is the Gnostic heresy. Don't make that conflation, because that's not the way that Paul uses the word flesh. But to me, what's so powerful about using this language of flesh is the implication of the word Jesus becoming flesh. This is not just God entering a body. This is God specifically entering into our fallen state and our fallen nature. It's precisely this state of sin and suffering and disconnection and disobedience that God chooses to enter into out of a love for us, to enter into this darkness and bring light. To further emphasize the beauty of this act of love, verses 10 and 11 provide more context, which I'll reiterate is, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. Now, this sounds like a description of Jesus' ministry, right? He came into the world, they rejected him, they crucified him, that sort of stuff. So it sounds like his ministry and our rejection of him in his ministry. But crucially, this also describes the fall. God made the world. He made us. Yet we, whom he created, rejected him and continued to reject and disobey him. That's a crucial point, this continual rejection, because from Adam, we inherited not only guilt for Adam's sin, but we inherited this disposition to disobedience and rejection of God, as much of the Old Testament and New Testament and human history really shows. There's this continued disposition to disobedience, rejection of God, all throughout human history. Yet, even though we continually reject him, he continues to enter into our world. He continues to enter into our world and into our fallen state to offer us the opportunity to choose him. And as verse 12 says, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. He continues to, so as verse 12 says, he continues to enter into our fallen state, as exemplified by the incarnation, to offer us the choice to accept him and become children of God, which is what verse 12 is specifically saying when it says, whoever believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Crucially, this is what the incarnation represents, as John describes here. It is God entering into our fallen state to pull us out of our fallen state and make us children of God. Now, what exactly does it mean for us to be made children of God? And I think there's a very real connection between us as children of God and Jesus as the Son of God that is being established here. Because as Genesis 1:27 says, we are created in the image of God. And as 2 Peter 1:4 says, and 2 Peter 1:4 says that, by which he has granted to us his precious and very great promises, so that through them you may become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desire. So there is a sense in which Christ's incarnation gives us the ability to become like him. And as Athanasius says, for God became man so that man might become God. In his incarnation, Christ represents this ideal man, or as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:45, he is the last Adam, doing what the first Adam could not do, living in the way the first Adam could not live. Through this means, Christ, the last Adam, rebuilds this bridge between God and humanity, allowing us to overcome the flesh and live fully as we were designed to live, which is in the image of God. To be very clear, you might have got red flags from hearing this description, but this is a very biblical concept. But this concept of becoming like Christ can be taken, and partaking in the divine nature can be taken way too far. I think the way Mormons use it, for example, they believe that we become gods. We are not essentially, there's no essential difference between us and the Son of God. So by through like their process, we can become gods ourselves, which ultimately blurs this line between creator and creature. We are created beings, and we will remain created beings. God is the uncreated creator. We cannot rise to that level and become that. However, we were made in the image of God, and Christ offers us the means to truly live in this image-bearing sense. But the point is, we don't become gods. That is a heretical teaching, and it's not what the Bible is actually preaching. Instead, we become like Christ as we were designed in God's image while we remain created beings. Only through Christ is this transformation and restoration made possible, as verse 18 emphasizes. No one has ever seen God, the only God who is at the Father's side. He has made him known. So God is the one who went out of his way to build this bridge. In spite of our rejection, in spite of our weakness, God entered our broken condition to offer us a way out. And knowing we will continue to reject him, as we continue to do, and even did when he incarnated as Jesus, we crucified him, he persists and keeps offering us that restoration. He continues offering us this choice. And that is the beauty of John 1. And I really, really hope that you can find that beauty in your own lives, because he did this for you. He incarnated so that you can be who you were designed to be, the true image bearer of God. You can partake in that divine life. And I think that is made possible through Christ, through his incarnation, through the God-man. And I think that is beautiful, and it's just such an expression of love of God. This goes beyond, we have our own theological formulations and we have all of our ideas, but this is truly just God expressing his love for us, yet still offering us this choice in this, and entering into our state of brokenness to pull us out of it, building that bridge to humanity between God and humanity, which I find incredibly beautiful, and I really do hope that you can see that beauty as well in your life. But with that's all that I have for this video. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the comment section. If you guys liked the video, please go and leave a like down below. And if you really enjoyed it and want to keep seeing more of my content, go hit the subscribe button. I'll try to make it worth your while. And then also, if you really enjoyed the content, you've been supporting it for a while, watching for a while, please consider going to the Patreon link below and making a donation or recurring donation. I would really appreciate it, as it really helps me stay motivated to keep doing this and putting in this time outside of work to keep producing these videos. So yeah, I would really appreciate that. I also have a Discord down below. Let's get that going. Let's get some conversations going, and would love to interact with you guys more. But with all that, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.